My name is Sasha Stiles. I'm a poet, a visual artist, and I'm also an artificial intelligence researcher, and I do a lot of work that involves text and technology. I think the metaverse means a lot of different things to different people. I'm a poet, I'm a bit of a word nerd, so I tend to think a lot about the metaverse from that perspective and kind of breaking it down, meta as meaning, bigger, higher, above, just this kind of expansive quality to it. And then verse, the universe, and just thinking about all the things that are in the universe kind of becoming one. And so to me, there is that very poetic quality to the word metaverse. So I kind of always start there with that maybe slightly romantic notion of it. Taking it back kind of to the origins of the word, it was, a term coined by Neil Stephenson, a science fiction writer who I love. He coined the term back in the 90s, the early 90s, so it's actually a word that's been kicking around for a long time now, and has obviously evolved and means very different things now. But I come from this background of thinking that, well, poetry is this one thing, and it lives in a book, and it's constrained to a page. And now that I'm sort of able to play with poetry in the metaverse, I see that that's not the case at all. Poetry can be so much more than that. Words can really be liberated from the page. They can become interactive experiences. A poem can be something that you don't just read, but that you listen to and you walk through, or that you wear, or that, is a filter. So I think it's really exciting for me and for, all of my poet friends who are in the space to just, have this zone where we can really experiment and we can play, and we don't have any of these preconceived definitions of what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And to me, that really is what the metaverse means. It's this place where we can kind of go above and beyond what we thought we could do before. And the best part of it is that we can all do it together. We're all able to come together from around the globe and play in this virtual realm, and it's a lot of fun. As a poet, as a writer, I really love being on Tezos because it's just such a quick, easy, intuitive ecosystem. And a lot of what drew me to it in the first place is that it costs next to nothing to mint and to swap and to share things with my friends and with my collectors. Being a poet is, I would say, it's not the most lucrative profession in the world, in the conventional sense of what poetry is. And it makes a difference being able to mint something on a proof of stake blockchain where it's a very inexpensive, gas fee versus minting on something like Ethereum where I might have to pay $100 to mint a poem or something. So that's been sort of a big reason why I, really got established there and wanted to make my home as a poet on Tezos. The other big reason for me is just the community on Tezos, and the spirit on Tezos is so different than what I've encountered elsewhere in the crypto realm. And literally the first, few hours that I got involved in it, I started meeting people who made me feel like I was at home, and I'd really found, a crew that was interested in the kind of experimental, conceptual, kind of weird, eccentric things that I like doing with my art and with my poetry. So the spirit of Tezos is a really big draw for me as well, and I love the people that I've met throughout this ecosystem. So one of the things that I'm really interested in as a poet, beyond my own work and the work of my friends, is just kind of thinking about the traditional publishing model as it exists now. It's, a world that I'm pretty familiar with. I have a book coming out soon that is published in the traditional publishing system. And, while that's been a great experience, it's also taught me a lot about the shortcomings of what it means to produce a physical book. There are a lot of voices. There are a lot of people who maybe aren't able to tell their stories and share their poetry and their art with the world in the way that they'd like to. And so all of this has sort of made me begin to think more and more about the potential, not just for my poems and my art on Tezos, but really about the potential for publishing in crypto in general, but also on proof of stake in particular. And again, because of the efficiency of the way that proof of stake works, because it's very low cost for everyone who's involved, I think, it really does seem to be the case that publishing is a really great use case for the Tezos blockchain, and one that hasn't really been tapped as of yet. There's actually a really wonderful zine that originated on Tezos called The Tickle, and is a really amazing sort of example of what you can do on the blockchain as a publisher, as an editor, how you can bring people together and create something that's really of value to the whole literary community and distribute it in a way that's very, very new and different. The beauty of the whole ecosystem and the community on Tezos is that a lot of us are thinking about these things from our own unique points of view, and then we're kind of bringing it all together, bringing our various experiences together, bringing our different skill sets together, and hopefully, we're all going to be able to join forces and really figure out how we can innovate and maybe do a little bit of disrupting too, and figure out how we can really take advantage of the blockchain to empower writers, to empower editors, to really sort of rethink what publishing is and can be. When I first started on Tezos, it was it was a scrappy crew. It was really, really fun, and there weren't that many of us, but we had so much fun. It just felt like a really underground vibe, and we just kind of all got together and got to play and share and swap and just kind of have fun. And that's still the case, but what's changed since last year, and it's all happened pretty fast, is that there has been this massive influx of new creators, of new collectors, of lots of new ideas that are really coming into the blockchain, new platforms. When I started, there really weren't that many options for platforms to mint poetry on, and in the 12 months since I first got onboarded into the space, there have been a number of new platforms that have popped up. Some that are sort of purpose-built for writing, some that are custom made for generative projects, so that as someone who makes generative text, that really excites me a lot. There are a lot of new ways to kind of play and explore and get involved with the ecosystem that didn't exist this time last year, and I think that's gotten the broader audience really excited about the fact that it is possible to create NFTs in a way that is eco-friendly, that feels responsible, that feels like there is thought and there's an ethics behind it, and I think that that's really, really appealing and has brought a lot of new energy into the space, which is great for all sorts of reasons. Getting to create on the blockchain, to me, has been an experience of just removing boundaries and reminding me that the only thing that limits me is my own imagination. And that is why, when I think about blockchain, I do think about this sense of just unbridled, imaginative, creative potential.